Hey friends, welcome back to the homestead. Actually, we're not at our homestead. We are hanging out with Robert and Sherry at Ellessare Adventures, and we are gonna go check out the bees and see how they're doing since the last time I was here when they first got the bees. So let's head over to the beehive. I got hubby with me. Hopefully we don't get stung. He's scared to death, guys. So let's go check out some bees. All right, man, you're safe.
Right now is actually a perfect time to come up and look at these bees because it's beautiful weather. Most of them will be out foraging right now. Usually it's the foragers that get aggressive, so if there's inclement weather or it's later in the evening or early in the morning, they're all still in there. Once they leave, it's just nurse bees that are primarily focused on taking care of the brood. So. But one of the first things we do when we're doing an inspection is to do a visual inspection of the front.
Okay.
So we want to watch and see what they're doing, right? There'll be bees that are coming in with forage, either pollen, nectar, or propolis. And if you come close enough, right now there's not too much concern with getting stung.
Yeah.
You might get ran into by a bee coming in, but if you watch, once they hit the board, some of them will have, it's orange pollen right now. You obviously can't see the nectar because it's inside their stomach, but also propolis. Actually, there's a drone right there, just came off the landing board right here. They're kicking them out. Some of the other things you might see are guard bees. They'll usually be kind of hunkered down with their front legs up in the air, and they'll be checking the bees as they come in. You might see a little bit, this one right here on the left was checking another bees. So they basically check their pheromone to see if they're in the right place.
So each hive has a different pheromone?
They do, yeah. So right on that hive there was two that just went in with pollen. One of the other things, especially this late in the year, is robbing. So the bees will come and find a different hive and try to take their resources. So if you see a lot of fighting, you smell that? Yep.
Sour?
Sour, yeah. That's the goldenrod nectar. But right now it's great to see all this pollen come in because they use that pollen to rear the brood. And what we're really looking for today is to see if they're queen right, see if they have enough stores for winter. We're actually going to put those entrance reducers in the front to help prevent any robbing, to make the entrance smaller so it's easier for them to protect. And then also we'll look for signs of disease. So they're actually coming from that hole up inside of the middle, and they'll bring it back down inside.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to trap these bees over here. So what I'll do with this is I'll actually just, we got propolis all over this. It's just real sticky, and it seals the hive up. It's their bee glue, yeah. To look for anything that looks different than the rest. This should all be workers. There's a rock in there. You see all this is propolis along the edge. They've just brought in to glue it down. And then they got a little bit of bird comb up here that they're playing with, which gets to be a nuisance when it gets attached to the other frame.
Yeah.
That smell is getting stronger. Alright, so we'll set this down over here. We always set it down at an angle to the other box to avoid squishing bees. So the way this is oriented is this should be honey most of the time. This will be honey and pollen a lot of times. And as you get closer to the center, it'll actually be brood. Sometimes they'll only lay in one box, but when the queen is laying enough, she'll use both. And then after winter, they'll end up moving to the top because they'll follow the feed up. Alright, so what I'll do is I'm actually just looking at this frame, and I can see this side is capped honey. And you see how it's just all capped? And then this side looking in as well, you can see it's capped honey.
Yeah.
So there's no real reason for us to pull that frame out.
Right, because she's not going to be over there.
She shouldn't be. It's always possible, but the minimal disruption necessary to accomplish your goal is the best way to go. And so we'll slowly move this frame over. I use different tools for different people, but just flat in there, and then squeeze it over. And then my mentor always said, just do it with a purpose. They'll get out of the way. Sometimes you'll hit them. And now I can look at this frame and I can see that's capped honey. And this side looks like capped honey. But I'll start by pulling this frame out to give me room to work. We want to be careful when we lift these out that we're not hitting either side because that'll roll the bees and it'll squish them basically. So that's why we're getting room to work. I like to adjust by setting a corner down, and then I hold it by holding pinching these, and then I'll use my middle finger to support the other side. When you see, that's all capped honey, which is great to see. You can tell it's capped honey too and not brood for the fact that they cap it all at once rather than individually. What we're looking for is signs of a queen being present. You don't necessarily even have to see her, but seeing eggs is the best indication. Because if you see eggs, as I showed you on the chart, she's been there within the last 3 days. Now I'm looking down in here, this is all capped honey. And another thing I'm thinking about too as I do this is how aggressive they're being. And they're really calm right now. Which is another indication that they're queen right. If they're not queen right, they'll be a lot more frantic. They'll actually be running across the frames a lot of times.
Right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there she is.
See your big butt from here.
And you see all these bees coming out to check us out now.
Yep.
She'll usually be a different color than most of the rest too. She'll be a solid color on her abdomen, whereas everybody else has some kind of striping. So I don't need to really open up the second box too much, but what I want to do is check and see what's going on in there. So I'm going to lift this box, I'm going to pull it toward me a couple inches, and then I'm going to hinge it up in the top because obviously there's more weight on it. You hear it cracking.
Yeah.
All that propolis. And then as you let this one out to come to this side's going to start sealing again. So once I get it under it, I'm going to lift it, and then I'm going to pull on it slowly, and now I can lift the whole thing. So now I can look in here and I can see what's going on in the bottom. And look in the sides, I see capped honey over here, and then you see most of the bees are clustered around the middle because that's where all the brood is. So they're in there bringing food to the brood and back and forth, as well as keeping it warm or keeping it cool as necessary. But the population looks good, the food stores looks good. So right now, all I'm gonna do is probably put the interest reducer on, but we got a pretty healthy population of bees in here. So what I'll do is I'll set it back down and kind of cattywampus. One thing we'll do during the winter too, just to check on them, and as we get closer to winter, if we don't want to inspect, we'll lift the back of this hive and see how much it weighs. And that way we can kind of get a rough estimate of how much resources are in them. So since we found out what we needed to know, we can put the hive back together. What I'll end up doing eventually, once the weather cools off a little bit more, if it's below 55 degrees every day, you're not going to feed them liquid. You can feed them, fondant is what I think you're referring to. That or just a sugar brick. So you'd wet sugar, kind of form it into a brick on like a sheet pan and let it dry out, and then you could set it inside the hive. You ready to give it a shot? One out right there. Just below the edge.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
So that's a good sign actually, because that means that since this is filled with nectar and that one's actively hatching and this one's actively hatching, it's probably just backfilled with nectar and the queen hasn't had a chance to come back here to lay. And I'm going to check the edges for any small hive beetle. I don't see any. And then this is all nectar. Couldn't ask for better weather. It was a good day to pick.
Yeah, that's nice. A little bit warm.
A little bit. That's the one thing with, if you do decide, you got a vented suit on. If you were like Joe with 2 suits on, he's probably burning up over there. Yeah. But even with a vented suit, it gets hot, especially in the middle of summer. So we'll go ahead and skip to this one if you're ready to try.
Okay.
If you want to, no pressure. Because this one has been the one that's been
acting up.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Look at that.
Oh.
2 births in one day.
Oh my gosh, Beb, look at Beb. Beb.
You got a butterfly
coming out.
Butterfly
emerging.
Why? Oh, we saw that just yesterday.
See if it's gonna be alright. I think it's got its wing in there still, looks like.
I feel like moths are like fuzzy.
So this will actually take some time to dry out and extend its wings before it can fly away.
Oh, that's cool.
It's breakdancing.
It's probably hot on that thing.
Probably is a little warm.
Oh.
I'm a Disney princess.
Friends, so we just finished with the bees and I got stung for the first time right on my pants. And Robert warned me, wear baggier pants, but I don't have any baggy pants, so I went with the baggiest I got, which are jeans. And yeah, I got stung for the first time. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. That was a lot of fun. We got to see a lot of different bee activity, and the one that I actually worked on has an issue that Robert needs to figure out what it is, but it was really cool. Definitely still want to get bees. Even though I got stung, I still want to get bees. All right, friends, so we are home. It is the next day. We ended up staying pretty late at Robert and Sherry's, just hanging out, having dinner. They cooked us an amazing dinner last night, and we just got to hang out, have fun, and just get to know each other even more. But let me tell you about those bees, man. That was crazy, absolutely crazy. You know, the first time I went, the bees were new to the hive. They were new to Robert, so he just they were pretty calm, just putting them in there. But this time I got to see them doing what bees do and living their life and doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it was really cool, and he walked me through every single thing that he was looking for when it comes to the bees and making sure they are doing well. So I learned a lot from him, and I really cannot wait to get bees. He offered to be a mentor when I do decide to get bees, but he also definitely suggested that I find somebody local who could come down, because he is about 2 hours from me. I'm excited to have Robert and Sherry as our friends and just building this community together. Thank you guys so much for hosting us. I can't thank you enough. All right, friends, so definitely go and check out Robert and Sherry in Ellessare Adventures. They have so much that they're doing right now in their new homestead, and it's exciting to see what's going on with them, as well as all the new changes that they are making. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends and family. As always, I hope all is well, and have a blessed day.